teaching research projects for practitioners. And my examples in this talk are going to be from Montessori schools, because that's where I know most of you are doing this. Here's a picture of a Montessori school in Nicaragua. I'd like to start this with a quiz question. What was the title? I have a large audience here who's filming this. The title of Montessori's first book. It got published as The Montessori Method. But what was it actually titled? And it was third title. There was no reward because this is Montessori. So it was actually called, in the original one, 1912, the most common one, Montessori Method, Scientific Pedagogy Applied to Teaching or Applied to Child Education in Children's Houses. But the original one in 1909 just had the second part, Scientific Pedagogy. So Montessori, in her very first book, had us thinking about not the Montessori method, not her method, but the method of scientific pedagogy. In other words, she's talking about the idea that the classroom is a laboratory and the teacher is a researcher. That's what scientific pedagogy means. It seems unlikely, and in doing training of practitioners for action research with Dr. Petty, who was a Montessori teacher and a researcher and a teacher educator, she used to give this introduction to the idea. Suppose a Montessori early childhood teacher notices that a certain pouring exercise in the practical life is just not getting any love at all. The students are avoiding it like the plague. It's literally gathering dust. So in her busy morning, going around doing everything that a Montessori teacher does, she's trying to think about what could have gone wrong with this activity. Why is it getting no attention? Why is it sitting there all by itself? So I'm going to ask again my large audience if they have an idea why Montessori material is being neglected. Okay, so it's a faulty thing that doesn't work very well. Or maybe it's partially broken. That's not going to be attractive for children. Could also have been that it's too easy for them in the classroom. It's attractive for it because they're past it. Could be the pouring is unlikely, but it could be that it's too hard. So here's some of the ideas. Too easy, too hard. Also, maybe you did a terrible presentation. Maybe a child got an electric shock in the classroom from a loose wire when you were presenting that, and everybody gets it. They've been conditioned against it. Or the materials are ugly. It's always an interesting dynamic, the observation in the strange person's 36 classroom, when you look at their practical life, and it looks like bargain time and Goodwill. It's just regular Goodwill is fine, but bargain time at Goodwill, stuff doesn't match, and it's listening to nothing. So you don't want to say that. You don't want to say out loud to someone your practical life is like a classroom. That's not a deep personal thing. But it could be it's not an attractive material. These things are hypotheses. These are your ideas of what's behind what you're observing. And then the teacher tries to think about this again, maybe overnight, talking with an uncaring spouse that doesn't care about Montessori practical life, and says, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. She decides that the first week, it's not really too hard, it's not too easy, it's right in the middle of the class, and the presentation is fun because kids used it after the presentation. So maybe the material is not that attractive. I may not imagine that this teacher's going to test this hypothesis. Well, that's her research project. It's a tiny little mini research project that the teacher is doing, and she's going to now collect some data. So the next morning, she uses the all-purpose fix-it for 3 to 6 Montessori pouring work, food colored. So she just puts a drop of her choice, and she pours that, and you have to take it to her. You have to take a moment to use that. It's suddenly really exciting. So she takes that as confirmation of her hypothesis, and the fact that things need a little jazzing up every once in a while, and that you need to be aware of not just setting your environment out the whole time, but setting it out and then refreshing it all the time. So I'll pick it up here again and say that most teachers engage in many of these small observational studies in the classroom every week. They're constantly checking to see, why is that table so noisy? It
It's like the British Parliament. What is going on there? You know, what's causing that? Is it this? Is it that? You know, I'm going to split it. It's like a 6-person table. I'm going to give that table to another unsuspecting 3 to 6 and take that 3 to 2 person. Suddenly, it's like inside the microwave. All with me? All of those ideas of changing your environment can be little experiments. And this way of repeating these just many research projects is the way that good teachers, regardless of Montessori or not, fine-tune their classrooms. So this was a curriculum example. So we're looking at a particular piece of curriculum. How could we open this up to other categories? What other kinds of research might we be doing? A large audience is not caught. And skilled expert audience. Well, one thing is that was a 3 to 6 example. So we could do a toddler example. We could do a 6 to 9 example. We could do some other age. How else could we expand our repertoire here? So that was curriculum. You could also do instructional things. How do you use the material? What kind of presentation is going to give you a better output? Should, for example, I slow down when I present? Yes, the answer is I should slow down. What is it? Does it help or hurt if when you're talking in a presentation, you also at the same time are signing? Does that help or hurt? I don't know the answer to that as far as I know. Or is it a process question? What is going on with children re-entering the room after recess? Why does that look like certain segments of mathematics? Is there something that's not making you slow down and so on? And this is just the start of all the different kinds of things that you can find. So to do action research, these are basic examples, usual actual research program or thing that a teacher takes on for their particular research idea is a little more complicated than these tiny ones. But it's a very straightforward thing to do. And one of the big troubles, though, is that it's a hard thing to ask a full-time hard-working teacher to take the extra time to do this research project. So one of the things that's important to work on as you think about doing this, both for the person who's starting off doing it and you as a researcher, is what can I do to make hard areas like collection of data as easy as possible. So important questions or issues that are there for them. So practitioner research is not used very much to influence theory. It's made to influence your practice in your classroom. And that would be the same if you do non-Montessori teachers or if you do Catechists or the Good Shepherd teachers and so on. So to find out if other research has been done, that would be good to look at. But most times, for the things that teachers are looking for, very little has been done. So you're on your own. You can find things that are close enough to give you ideas. A lot of us are just having it on your own. So one of the big questions about research should be categories that it falls into a qualitative and quantitative. So if you think of the qualitative as being anthropological, that means you'd be doing a lot of observing in the classroom and you wouldn't necessarily have a form to check. You'd be doing open-ended observations in your classroom. And the data that's coming into you isn't coming off of a test or an observation form that gives you a number. When you do that, you're doing quantitative research. So the big question between those two is it numerical, because that would be called quantitative, or is it non-numerical, qualitative? There's also mixed methods where people are using both of those things, and mixed methods is growing in the numbers of studies that use that, and it's something I really encourage people to think about for their choices, because you can do about that richness of observation, or interviewing, asking students why they're doing something or what they're doing, and then also maybe do something that's numerical, much more often concentrating on the different units. So I guess I should say in here too, when I say observation, I'm saying that that's a single thing, but there's whole books and courses on observation.
So there's lots and lots of ways. So that's another area of brainstorming about the kind of observation you can do before you jump in. That's probably a really good idea. So with Montessori teachers over a number of years, we found that sharing time at the end of the process is very beneficial. Teachers are often very aware of their smart sample, and the data, and so on. But the other teachers in the group really appreciated what they'd done, and their findings were often very applicable to the other teachers. So by presenting this to a peer group of teachers, you really get more of a sense of how much you've learned and how valuable your work has been for the other teachers. Or I can continue and share it in our experiences. Also, cooperative projects, although they're more work, are often people who end up sticking with the project and going on and doing a second round or a third round of the research as well. So now I'm going to give you, as it says, 7 examples from the time when we did this with Montessori teachers. This is one when it was very fun, where we actually got to go to another country to do it. So this was in Australia. There was a nationwide group of 22 teachers that came to do it. And this one teacher was from a pretty small town in northwestern Australia, so north of Perth, not very many big cities up there. She'd been teaching for a long time, several decades, 3 to 6. And she said, you know, I see these children, and they're what I call walk-by learners. I watch someone who's doing, I may not walk by learners, she didn't say that, so I'm conferring to this. Walk-by learner. And so the Montessori teacher would say, would you like me to show you that work? No. And then sometimes she didn't ask. She said, come with me. And she showed me the work. Now, would you like your turn? No. Don't want to do it. They just walked by. So she called them, the ones who were the ones that used their hands and the ones that almost never did it. So she had a very simple thing. She just kept track of which children were the walkers and which children were the doers. And then at the end of the year, she said, we're going to play a game. She put sensorial. She had 10 sensorial materials. And I would like you to pretend to be the teacher, and I will be the child. And I want you to present all 10 of these materials. Are you with me? So she got for the whole class, with her assistant carrying the rest of the class, to see how they did on 10 sensorials. And guess what? The walk-by learners had learned just as much. And she had an insight to that, which I thought was very interesting. She said that the training that she received as a Montessori teacher totally focused on hands-on learning. That's kind of one of the watchwords of Montessori. And you certainly want to have that available for the many children who are, but not all of them are. And so her feeling was that the training really didn't prepare her for teaching those children who were mainly visual learners. And, I mean, again, we don't want to make sweeping statements from one classroom, but it seems like those walk-by learners were getting the same thing. And they were watching very intently. They got slow walking as they went by. So again, just a single teacher, single assessment at the end of the year, keeping track of who were the walkers and not. So she was able to fit that into her busy thing and come up with a very satisfying conclusion for her. So this is one in the United States, 3 to 6. This was a teacher who was wanting to look at repetitive use in materials. And one of my roles as a helper was to narrow her project down. So I figured on sensorial, and she said, I can't keep track of all these things. I just want to look at one material. And she came up with the thing that I've used ever more in all sorts of situations for people to be able to gather data without going crazy. She just took a small box about this big, and of course, the Montessori teacher covered with beautiful paper, and then had a slit in it. Next to it was a bowl of white poker chips. The deal was, in her classroom, she announced this to the whole class, and everybody was actually fine with it and enjoyed it. When you went to use the pink teller, you needed to put a chip in the box so that you could buy the rental. You could use that material. So she had a lovely graph for the whole school year of the use of the pink teller. And of course, it started by, especially with that, she thought she didn't have data to show that, of course, because she started with the coins, but she thought that gave it more interest to the children. For those of you who can't see my lines, they're not, but that's something. And it kind of meandered down.
And then after Christmas, it took a sharp spike upward. Now again, what she has is this graph. The interpretation of what that means is something she's making up, and I'm relating to you. Is it certain that her interpretation is the right one? No, especially this is done in the classroom. But that's actually one of the most interesting and most causing learning in you is to try and figure this out. After Christmas, Pink Tower came off the shelf with a vengeance. She thought that the whole Christmas time is exciting and fun for the children, but it's not work. It's not something that they choose and they engage with and they do it to their own satisfaction, sit back having done that, and then put it back on the shelf. And so they were very happy to put that. And they often want a cruising, easy material for you, which would certainly be the Pink Tower. Meandering on into winter quarter and spring quarter, and it's going down. And then Tiny Tim is lost, the tiniest cube. And what happens? It actually goes up. Oh, Pink Tower's in the news. And then it goes down again. Oh, we found Tiny Tim. And that went all over down. And then in the middle of this pure observational study, she had an idea. It's getting out of spring quarter, and the use is low. Pink Tower is like Milli Vanilli. No one wants to walk. That's a preference for that.
Even I'm not old enough for that.
And so she did what I've suggested before that people do to engage children in something. Like one of the things I've used to tell people to do is, if you want your older fives to start doing hard sensorial, then you do something with no child. So she did the Pink Tower all by herself and sat back, picked it up and put it away, broke it. Boom, through the roof. Are you with me? So it's a very simple study, one material, but it's over the whole year. And I think you could say that gave some very satisfying results for that teacher. I mean, if I was a trainer doing 3 to 6 training, I would mention that in sensorial, because that we learned something that we didn't know before, which is pretty easy to do. And all you have to do is pour out the points and make a number on the graph paper. You should any of the dozens of you should stop me for a question. Yeah. Our third one was an intervention, an actual sort of causal comparative experiment in quotes. So this teacher was kind of annoyed, but she was also, I think she was, maybe later she started working as a trainer, but she was annoyed by the fact that when you were given presentations and you were training in the Montessori teacher education program, the trainer, who I will now portray, the trainer would say, yes, you may do this with 1, 2, 3 children. And when you give this presentation of fabric feeling, you may give them 2 or 3 fabrics. I'm not sure where the English accent came from. And the trainers, they're all sort of hunched, waiting for their gruel break. The trainers say, well, your trainership, is it 2 or 3? It depends on the child, of course. And then that's all you get. It's just like, well, how do you tell? So she said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We've got 4, it's a large school, have 4 3 to 6 classrooms. You can have these 4 teachers that agree to cooperate. Half of you are going to give presentations with 2 fabrics, and half of you are going to give presentations with 3 fabrics. And in 2 weeks, you give a test by just asking them to name the fabrics that you put out. And the answer is, available for only $100. No, the answer is that there wasn't any difference. So the 3rd fabric is almost never remembered. But again, is this going to be true in every Montessori school in the world? We don't know. But still, you should say, and again, if I were a trainer, it would be good to know that. Start with 2. If you've got a real hot shot and wants more, great. But start with 2. That's an actual thing you can now say as a result of one single thing in 4 classrooms that she forced these people to do. This one never got done, but I really liked it, so I mentioned it. And this is one that is a teacher ed thing. So she wanted to survey training programs. She was going to use either all the AMS ones or all the MACD accredited ones, which would bring a lot of their programs. And it was just basically a study on, do you teach the great lessons? I mean, many people, who, if they're Montessorians watching this, the answer should be, what do you mean? Of course you can teach the great lessons. This is for 6 to 9 programs. What do you tell children about the basic way in which these are presented? So what are the most basic ways? I would answer that question through some charts and storytelling and experiments. How important are these things? and youth with God is no else. I would love to know. Because what I see in Montessori teach right now is a real push to get everything in and to not lose students, and so things are falling through the cracks.
The great lessons are falling through.
They are getting shortened up quite a bit. The geometry of 3 to 6 has gotten to be, I've seen pretty weakness. You say to people in the training at the end a question or a discussion point or something about constructive triangles. Oh yeah, those are those boxes, right? Those are rich materials. Anyway, that was a commercial. You didn't have to pay for that. So she never did that, so we don't know the answer. Too bad. That's a picture of a penguin made out of pine cone wax. It doesn't have anything to do with this slide, but I try to show it whenever I can. It's so cool. Noise level. So there's been a thing coming and going in a sine wave of you should have music playing. Ideally Mozart, because Mozart's magic, as we all know, he wrote Magic Flute. And so therefore Mozart makes you smart. Or non-crazy people often just want to play classical music. And she said, well, I wonder if that adds to the noise level. So she got a decibel meter. Now you can have an app on your phone that will record that, and it will record the average, and it records the highest thing. If you have a J airplane landing, underscore that. This was one of the rare things anymore. It used to be a common practice, but it's not anymore. These were half-day classes, so she had a morning class, same teacher, the same environment, and the afternoon class. And she would flip a coin as to which one got music. And then she would measure, she'd have 2 numbers at the end of the day, morning decibel average, afternoon decibel average. And finally, again, it was, again, to me, was really interesting. The answer is the noise level was the same. So if you didn't have music, the noise level rose up to the same level. I mean, it wasn't perfectly exact, but it really was very close every year, meaning to me that I would have music, because I would have music than chatter. I don't see them just like the great battle, played Whitesnake on one morning, Metallic on the other, and determined the greatest death metal band, but whatever kind of music you like. Spelling. Let me just say, to introduce this one of the functions of practitioner research is to make you discouraged about how far we have to go. How's that for a bad statement? This is on invented spelling in 3 to 6. So remember that 3 to 6 invented spelling is in most people's mind an okay thing that is characteristic of those children. And the rationale in Montessori for allowing that is we want them to write, and we can work on orthographic spelling later. And in fact, what was seen, and this was a large study for a person, she actually published this in a book, it's a book chapter, about, anyway, she had a number of classrooms, and I was really disheartened at how many teachers said, no, I correct 3 to 6-year-olds spelling. And she studied enough so that she could tell you why. So one variable that influenced it, was it temporary, like movable alphabet, or something written on a chalkboard, or was it written down on paper? And teachers were much more likely to demand correction of permanent rather than temporary materials. Does that make sense? And was it private? It's going in the student's cubby versus being put up on the side of the room, or worse yet, out in the hall. If it was for public observation and consumption, orthographic paranoia. She didn't use those words, those are my words, and also big band, which I believe is still free if you need it. So that was discouraging to me. It was in both public and private schools, and again influenced by publicness of the writing and temporary versus permanent. So it's good to know that, even though for me that's discouraging. This is my last one. This is by, does anybody know Greg Nelson, the author? He wrote A Teacher's Bag of Tricks, which is still my favorite classroom management book. And as a professor now, has a PhD as a professor at Bridgewater State in, I believe it's Massachusetts. He also, more recently, wrote a very nice book on math before the number lines. And math for late toddlers and preschool, made with stuff. They make that practical life rather than something else at night to a foreign country. So he was taking classes as a doc student while he was teaching in a Montessori classroom, 3 to 6. He was taking a class on sensation in young children, preschoolers, and it was known for the fact that children at that time were very, very sensitive to color, which of course makes perfect sense since Montessori has all this color coding stuff. But again, and I don't know if the people listening to this now how much your Montessori background is, but this is the trinomial cube. It's got 27 pieces, and the children in preschool do it as a puzzle. Almost always in Montessori, the same color, especially within a single material, means the same thing everywhere. So this yellow coloring means that you're looking at a 2 by 2 centimeter square, and this is a cube, so it's going to have 6 of those. A 3 centimeter square is blue, and so on. So on ones that are not the squares, or not the cubes, that's also true. And black means everything else. The red, yellow, and blue have a consistent meaning, but black means it's a rectangle, although there are 3 different rectangles. So Greg was scratching his head about this, and so he came up with 2 alternative paint jobs. And of course, like any big school, schoolers that had chipped and damaged triangular cubes, which he repainted. And he had nicknames for them. He painted one all black. It was known as the stealth triangle. So here you can see the 3 rectangles. That's a rectangle, that's a rectangle, and that's a rectangle. 3 rectangles, 3 colors, green, orange, and purple. So now there was no more black. That was the rainbow rectangle. To do this research, he had to randomly assign children to a trinomial. So that meant that the trinomial was no longer story up, child fight, story up, teacher out, child. Did everyone's brain explode? No. It made it more attractive. Does that make sense to you? This is doing the trinomial, late 4s and 5s. Do they want something special just for them? Oh yeah, I'm doing the black trinomial, all black. That's me. So no, it was fun. We had a chart that said Joe is trinomial. And when he did that and recorded what he wanted, he looked at how frequently they took it out, how long they worked with it, and the number of mistakes they made, and how many of those mistakes they corrected. So 4 variables. And it was consistent. The winning trinomial was the best on all of those, which was the rainbow trinomial. In the middle was the stealth trinomial, and pulling up 3rd out of 3 was the trinomial that is in every class all over the world. It's a combination of colors, some colors meaning one thing, and other colors not meaning one thing, but 3 things is confusing to a child just as he suspected. That's what I have to say, except for the final thing of what does this do for people? So it's a great thing. I think it's too much to ask of beginning teachers. I think they're still learning what to do and how to have a life while teaching. But mid-career teachers, for refreshing them and reinvigorating them, giving an area in which you or he is an expert. And I'm going to put a big category up here, and I'll give you examples. In my experience of having done this since 1986, it is a real incubator of leadership. So people who went through these early teacher research networks stepped up and gave a presentation in their region or state association. And then took a big step, and instead of the Montessori group, they did it in 8YCs, so the statewide and even the national 8YCs. They ran for office in those organizations. Peggy and I used to joke for a while, in 1986 to about 90, every time there was a board election, the percentage of people on the American Montessori Society board who were graduates of the Teachers Research Network went up. It looked like a secret conspiracy. Peggy and I just stuffed the board with our meetings. But in fact, it was just super competent people who aspired to that and going back to get a master's or a doctorate. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. It really makes you think. I mean, Peggy and I came to the conclusion that the research part was great, but actually the meal parts when you talk with other teachers And again, you have to go back to the most basic thing about this, which is, what are you doing? You're questioning Montessori. You're saying Montessori is not here anymore. She's not with us to ask a question about this. I am here. I am in my classroom, and I'm going to ask the children this question. And I'm going to get an answer, and I'm going to not hide it under my hat. That's the hardest thing to do. Teaching researchers to share that, because that's not what that is about. And I hope you feel from these examples that a lot of these things would be really great for someone besides me to know in the whole world. Anyone who's listening, go through this list. But this has a big impact. And I'll say one more example of this. So one of the things that happens is sometimes parents feel that they're not doing enough with their children and spending enough time with them, and they're angry about that because of their job or other things. And they take that out by treating teachers badly, by yelling at them. And this is a thing that maybe what's going on is it makes them feel like they're really advocating for their child and taking charge here. This worked well for me at work, just shouting people's faces, so maybe I'll help this teacher. Anyway, this particular dad was just telling the Montessori teacher she didn't know how to teach reading. I know what she should be doing. She get rid of this Montessori project. Do this and do this and do this. And she kept saying, well, I took my Montessori training here. It was a year-long training. It was very challenging. I passed that. Blah, blah, blah. I have a master's degree. Blah, blah, blah. She said, why aren't you doing this? I said, well, actually, I tried that in my research. It didn't work. And the man literally took a step backwards. You did research. And the conversation was now on a different level. And looking about that, and suddenly some respect was being given over to her. But anyway, I think that this changes people more than just their knowledge about a specific thing, because it gives them a different attitude toward your own teaching practice, that you're in charge and you can make your own decisions. And then I think I'm not putting my audience on the spot to ask questions. Thank you for sitting through that. My goodness, all that was just.
We don't want to do it again. Yeah.